Boo! Happy Halloween, guys! I'm so excited. I love Halloween, mostly the cutesy things of Halloween, but some spooky's good. And this year I decided to take it a step above my usual and make some special snacks for it. So today we're going to be making some Halloweenies, aka Pretzel Dogs, and we're also going to be making some Monster Eyeballs, aka Oreo Truffles. Now these are recipes that you can make year round. You don't have to necessarily make them all spooky looking like what we're going to do today, but both of which recipes are very easy to do. And for the pretzel dogs, you can take a shortcut and buy some frozen pizza dough from your grocery store, but we're not going to be doing that shortcut today, and we're going to be making it from scratch. Now let's get started with our pretzel dogs. To start off with our pretzel dough, we're going to need half a cup of warm water, about 110 degrees, 115. And then we're going to take 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. You can also use honey and add that to the warm water. And then we're going to do 3/4 of a teaspoon, or you can do a whole teaspoon of active dry yeast. Put it in there. This process helps activate the yeast, get it nice and foamy and alive. The sugar helps feed the yeast and give it a little more energy. Give that a good stir. And we're gonna set this aside for about 5-10 minutes until it's nice and foamy. And while we wait for our yeast, we're gonna take 1 1/3 or to 1 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, we're gonna add about half a teaspoon of salt. Just your regular table salt works just fine. Gonna give that a good stir. To our pretzel dough, we are going to add our yeast mixture that's had time to sit here and get all nice and foamy. We're gonna add that to our flour and salt mixture. Give it a good little stir. And then to that, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon, and I let the butter cool a bit beforehand so that the heat from the butter doesn't kill the yeast, because that wouldn't be good. And then we wouldn't have fluffy pretzels. Give this a good stir until it's a nice shaggy dough. And then this next part is where we get our hands dirty, where we're gonna knead the dough. Turn it out on a flat surface, clean surface. And we're gonna knead the dough for about 3 to 5 minutes until it kind of becomes nice and elastic and all the flour's been absorbed. Give it a good knead. This is just a small batch of pretzel dough since we're just making 8 pretzels, pretzel dogs. If you find that your pretzel dough is being a little too sticky to work with and sticking everywhere, go ahead and add a little bit of extra flour, just a tablespoon or 2 at a time, and try and work that in. See if you can kind of get it to behave and stick to itself and not your fingers in the counter. Okay, now our dough is ready and it's nice and kneaded. You know it's ready when it's nice and tacky, but it's not like sticking to your fingers anymore. So we're gonna take a clean, small bowl here, spritz it with a little bit of oil so our dough doesn't stick. Toss our dough in there. We're gonna tuck them in for a little nap here, cover them with some plastic wrap, or you can also use a damp towel and cover it. The main thing is you don't want to let air get to him too much, otherwise he's going to get dried out. And then we're going to have to start all over. And that's not fun. I like to store this just inside my oven that's turned off. A place that's a little bit warm and draft free. That way he can sit and rise. And we're going to let him rest for about 45 minutes to an hour or until he's doubled in size. You guys are gonna love these Oreo Truffles because they're even easier to make than the Pretzel Dogs. What we're gonna need is 1 block of cream cheese, so 8 ounces of cream cheese softened to room temperature. And then we're gonna need a package of Oreos. We're gonna use about 25 to 30 Oreos, or a whole 14-ounce container of Oreos. And to start out with, we're gonna take a clear plastic baggie, a gallon size, and we're gonna shove 25 to 30 Oreos in it, and we're gonna smash them to smithereens. In other words, smash the Oreos into very tiny pieces. If you have a food processor, that is gonna be your best friend right now, and go ahead and use your food processor to grind up the Oreos to small bits and pieces. Now we're gonna take a rolling pin and smash them. Now we got our Oreos all smashed up. We're gonna take them out of the bag, dump them into a medium-sized bowl. Okay, to our Oreo crumbles, we're gonna add a block, 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. You're gonna wanna let the cream cheese soften to room temperature before you mix it in. Otherwise, it's gonna be near impossible to get everything mixed together. Well, that didn't go according to plan. Add that in there. Gonna take a spatula, scrape off some of the extra cream cheese. And then with your spatula, just kind of smoosh it in there. You can also do all of this in the food processor as well. Maybe use a bigger bowl. Dump this into a bigger bowl because I picked too small of a bowl. And you're just going to smush the cream cheese and Oreos together until everything is combined. Okay. Our Oreo mixture is all mixed together. It's sticking together. So that's kind of what we want. We want to be able to make it into a nice little ball here. And if you find if your proportions to Oreos to cream cheese isn't quite enough, go ahead and crush up some more and add to it. Now that our Oreo mixture is all mixed up, all nice and mixed, we're gonna take a little cookie tray lined with parchment paper, and we're gonna take a cookie scoop, and we're just gonna scoop our Oreo mixture into about tablespoon size. You can do a little bigger or smaller depending on your preference. Grab it, roll it into a nice little ball, and now we have an eyeball. We're gonna set these on the tray, and these, once you get this all scooped out, this will be going in the freezer for about 30 minutes, just to help the Oreos kind of solidify and harden a little bit. Because after we do this, these Oreos are gonna be dunked in some white chocolate that will color some fun Halloween colors, and decorated with some fun sprinkles, and then we'll have some cool eyeballs. Okay, now we got all of our Oreo eyeballs formed, and I got 26. Depending on the size that you make yours, you may get more or less. Just depends on what size you make them. So now we're gonna take this tray and we're gonna put this in the freezer for about 30 minutes until these are nice and solid. Now Oreos are about done freezing here. So next part is we're going to take some almond bark, which is kind of a white chocolate that melts nicely and then hardens when it cools. So we're going to take some of this. We're going to use probably about half this package, maybe a little more. So we're going to take this bowl and then about half of that, half the block. The nice thing by using almond bark is that it melts very nicely. You can just use regular white chocolate, but I find that almond bark works just fine and it's quite affordable. So we're gonna start with this amount. We can always melt more later, but we're gonna put this in the microwave this for about a minute, and then give it a stir, and then do 30-second intervals, stirring in between until all of this is nice and melted. Okay, our almond bark is nice and melted now. So what we're gonna do is, I have some fun food coloring here, some nice neon gel food coloring, and I do recommend using gel just as it doesn't thin out the chocolate. So we're gonna take this, I have a few other small bowls, and we're gonna divide up the chocolate between them. Grab some spoons for the other flavors. And we're gonna add some of the food coloring to dye our almond bark. And this stage is optional. You don't have to turn it to different colors. I just find this is kind of more fun. And if your almond bark does start hardening a little too fast for you, go ahead and microwave it for a few seconds just to kind of loosen it up a bit. Now that we have all of our white chocolate ready to go for dipping, we're also gonna have our other decorating ingredients ready. I found these candy eyeballs here that we're gonna use, and also some fun Halloween sprinkles. So then as soon as we dip the Oreos, we're gonna sprinkle them on and decorate them right away. Now we have our Oreos, they're all firmed up, ready to go. I recommend using a fork just to kind of keep things neat. So all we're gonna do is drop our Oreo in there, roll it around. Might not be perfectly smooth since the gel that we did add there kind of hardened it a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, now we have that all covered with our white chocolate. We're gonna grab a little eyeball, we're gonna stick them on there. Some of our Halloween sprinkles, sprinkle it on, make it nice and fun. And there we go. This is our first little eyeball. We're gonna repeat this process with all of the other ones. Now our dough is all ready to go. It's doubled in size, it's nice and pillowy and risen. So it's all ready to go. So what we're gonna do is we're going to dust our surface a little bit with a little flour, just so our dough doesn't stick. Carefully pull it out of the bowl. It's gonna be sticky. Dust with a little flour on top just so it's easy to work with. Flatten it out. And then we're gonna divide this dough into 8 pieces. So I'm gonna take my little pizza cutter, make it easy for myself. So 8 relatively even sized pieces. Roll them into a little ball just so it's easy to work with. There we go. Next, we're gonna take our hot dogs here. I just have regular beef hot dogs. You wanna have a cookie sheet lined with either parchment paper or a silicone sheet on standby. So now we're gonna wrap our hot dogs. So we're gonna take our dough here, roll it out into a long, thin strip. If it's really sticking to the surface, go ahead and lightly flour it, just so it's easier to roll it out. So now that we have it rolled out nice and thin, we're gonna take our hot dog here and start wrapping it. And since we're going for a little mummy look, go ahead and get a little wild wrapping it so it overlaps with itself a bit here and there. So it looks like it's, well, a mummy. Be sure to pinch in the end so it sticks. And there we go, we have our first little mummy dog. Repeat the process with the remaining dough. And now that we have all of our wieners all nice and wrapped up tight, we're gonna take a large skillet here with high sides, or you can use a regular large pot. And you're gonna wanna put about 2 to 3 inches worth of boiling water in there. And in order to give this dough the nice chewy texture that you get with pretzels, we're gonna add baking soda to the water. Be very careful when adding your 1/4 cup baking soda to the water because it is gonna fizz up. So just be very careful. Add a little bit more. Okay, give it a good stir, make sure it's all good to go. And now we're going to cook these in batches of probably do about two or three at a time. And these only need to boil for about 30 seconds, just enough so that they start puffing up. So just about like that. Doesn't take very long. Set them back on your baking sheet, and if you didn't secure your edges, it's gonna unwrap kind of like what this one did, but that's okay. We'll just put that seam side down so when it bakes, it doesn't unravel. There we go. And just continue cooking until you have all your wieners boiled. While you wait for your wieners to boil, you can preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that we have all of our wieners boiled, we're gonna make a little egg wash to brush these with, and all you need is an egg, a teaspoon of water, so just like that. Give it a good whisk, and this egg wash is what's gonna give the dough for the pretzels that nice golden brown color. So we want to make sure we give these a good brushing before they go in the oven. Okay, I got my pastry brush here and just brush all the wiener dogs here. Now that we have all these brushed with egg wash, we're going to take a little flaky sea salt, and you can skip this step if you don't want to salt your pretzels. But we're just going to sprinkle these with a little salt. Now that's all that's left to do is bake these little Halloweenies at 425 degrees for about 11 to 13 minutes or until golden brown. And just like magic, we have some Halloweenies and Monster Eyeballs. Now with the Halloweenies, you can take a shortcut and buy some frozen pizza dough and just thaw it, wrap the weenies, and then boil it and bake it like normal. That'll save you a little bit of time if you're in more of a pinch. For the Monster Eyeballs, I'm not really sure how to make that any easier. But they're really simple, and it's just a nice little fun way to make Halloween a little more special and more fun. Now with the Halloweenies, I like to serve mine with a honey mustard dipping sauce, which is just half a cup of mayo to about 2 to 3 tablespoons of mustard and another 2 tablespoons of honey, and adjust the ratio to your preference. Otherwise, just treat it like a normal hot dog. You can dip it in some ketchup or mustard, have straight up barbecue sauce, whatever you fancy. But now let's give these a little bit of a try. Now with the Halloweenies, so you have that nice chewy pretzel dough thanks to our boiling it in baking soda. Then you have the tender meat in there from the hot dog. But if you don't want to do hot dogs, you can do like a German sausage or kielbasa or something else. Just get creative. See what you might like. Now as for these, if you like Oreos, you're gonna love these. I'm gonna take a little bite of this one. You have the nice creaminess of the cream cheese. And I don't know if you heard, but I had a nice crunch thanks to that almond bark. It's a really easy dessert and fun treat, and something you can get the kids involved in too. And they can all decorate their own little monsters. It'll be so fun. I hope you guys give these a try and have some fun with it. Feel free to get a little creative with the different ingredients you can try with these. Decorate them these a little differently, or try different sausage with the Halloweenies. Have fun with it. And I look forward to seeing what you guys might suggest to try in the future. Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see what you guys want to try next. And please remember, please be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I hope you have a very happy Halloween. Bye guys!